My name is Hunter Hill. From 1825 to 1840, the mountain men and Native Americans gathered once a year for the Rocky Mountain Rendezvous. They traded hides for supplies, they gambled on horse races, and of course, they drank and told stories. Follow along as I walk those same trails, drink from those same rivers, and tell those same stories. This is the Rendezvous. All right, we are in Wyoming this afternoon, and the reason we are in this particular meadow is because of this book right here. This is Osborne Russell's Journal of a Trapper. It's one of my favorite books. I've read it, I don't know, probably like a dozen times. And what it is it's just a first-hand account of the Rocky Mountain fur trade. Osborne Russell, he came west in 1834, and then he kept a journal for 9 years, kind of covering the latter half of the fur trade. And it's full of stories. He traveled with Jim Bridger. He fought Indians. It talks about him hunting and trapping and getting in tussles with grizzly bears. And it's just one of my favorite books. I love it. And that's why we're in this particular meadow. One thing that I really like to do when I'm reading either old journals or just any history book about the West, what I like to do is figure out exactly where these guys went. And we have a very good general knowledge on where these guys were, especially when they talk about big landmarks, certain mountain ranges, certain rivers. But once you get in between those landmarks and you want to get really precise about where they were, it gets a little cloudy. It's a little more tough. And so that's what we're doing today. Is we're out here trying to find the track of where Osborne Russell went in early August of 1838. One more thing before we really dive deep into the journal and before we really dig deep, I would like to mention that none of what you're about to see today has been authenticated. Nothing's confirmed. Nobody really knows where he went. And to be honest, nobody cares, right? This is 1 week. We're covering 1 week in a 9-year journal. And so nobody really cares that much exactly where he went. We know where he was and we knew where he ended up. But when I read about it and I kind of recognize some of his descriptions, I get really excited. So, like I say, there's nothing on the internet about this. And so as far as I know, I'm the only person to come out here and do what I'm doing. I'm the only person to really walk that same track. And it starts right here. So let's get into it. So the story begins early August of 1838. He writes, he says, "The next day, the camp followed down the Grovant Fork to Jackson's Hole." So right there, he gives us two landmarks. He gives us the Grovant Fork, and he gives us Jackson's Hole. So we know he's on the other side of these mountains right here. He says on August 1st, he says, We crossed Lewis Fork and encamped and stayed the next day. And then on the 4th of August, he says, the camp crossed the mountain to Pierre's Hole, and the day following, I started with my former comrade to hunt beaver on the streams which run from the Tetons. Now, Pierre's Hole is really big. That's straight south of me right now. It's like 30 miles long, and he spends the next few days hunting and trapping in Pierre's Hole. And he doesn't say where, and so we're only left to guess right there. But he does tell an interesting story. He says, about the middle of the afternoon, as we were winding down a steep declivity which overhung a precipice of rocks nearly 200 feet, my horse slipped and fell headlong down and was dashed to pieces. So he loses his horse, and I'm sure that was tough getting back to camp and getting another horse, but that happened just south of me, 30 miles. And then we skip to the 10th of August, and this is where it gets good. He says, on the 10th we returned to hunt the camp. When leaving the valley, we took up the valley in a west direction and then traveled the northwest course through dense forest of pine. Now, as you can see, there's pines all around this meadow. And so he's hugging the mountains, right? He's walking north, kind of northwest along the mountains. And then he says, we struck the trail of the camp going north, and we followed the track which led us through the forest when we came to a prairie about 5 miles in circumference. So we know he's going north, kind of northwest, right? We're west of the mountains right now, so he was angling, and they caught the track of the camp. So the camp was ahead of them, and he's following, trying to find the camp. And he says, the prairie in which the camp had stopped the night previous. So the camp rested here. There's 2 reasons that I believe that this meadow here is the prairie that he's talking about. The first reason, he says he traveled northwest for 15 miles and then continued for another 12. So that's about, 30 miles. And when you measure from Pierre's Hole, where he was, when you measure about 30 miles, it puts you in the vicinity of right where we're at. He talks about the prairie being 5 miles in circumference. And I looked at a map and I measured it out. And sure enough, it's super close to exactly 5 miles. The second reason that I believe that this was the meadow is for what he says next. He talks about traveling north, I'll tell you. He says, we traveled north, and after winding about among the fallen trees and rocks for about 6 miles, we fell onto the middle branch of Henry's, which is called by hunters the Falling Fork. So, he gives us a little more information there. He's going north. He's following the track of the camp. He's going north, and he says he goes 6 miles. If you look at a map and measure from this meadow 6 miles north, it puts you right on that river, right on the Falling Fork. And he talks about a waterfall when he gets there. He says, at the place where we struck the river is one of the most beautiful cascades I ever saw. The stream is about 60 yards wide and falls over the rock in a straight line about 30 feet perpendicular. And from that description alone, I knew what waterfall he was talking about. It's in Yellowstone Park. I've been there before. I knew what he was talking about. And sure enough, if you measure 6 miles from here to that waterfall, it's 6 miles. And so because of those reasons, I do believe that this is where that camp was, and I believe it's where it's where Osborne Russell stopped and continued on after finding the track of the camp. So this meadow here is where he was talking about. You know, when I first started kind of putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and I looked at the map and I measured it out, when it all started to fall together, oh my gosh, I was so excited. And I thought, I have to get out there and I have to follow that track. And so that's what we're doing. And we're gonna pick up with the video at the waterfall. A little disclosure, I actually came out here on the anniversary of when Osborne Russell was here. I came out here August 10th. And I made the video and I had some technical issues and I had to come out here and do it again. So the rest of the video from here on out, I recorded back in August. And so that's why there's gonna be some discrepancies. There's gonna be some differences from the rest of the video to right now. The landscape's gonna look a lot greener, and I'm not gonna have this awesome mustache because this thing took me 2 months to grow. So that's the reason there's a couple differences. Bear with me and we'll see you at the waterfall. All right, we made it to the Falling Fork. You can see why it was called the Falling Fork. You know, like I was saying before, this is not been confirmed. We don't know if this is where he actually was, but you know, just from my own deductions, I feel like it's gotta be where he was. There is another waterfall down that way a few miles, and I thought at first it was that one, but judging by his description, it's got to be this one. He does say, he says, "We stopped here a few minutes, then resumed our journey on the trail, and after winding about among the fallen trees and rocks about 6 miles, we fell onto the middle branch of Henry's, which is called by hunters the Falling Fork, for the numerous cascades it forms whilst meandering through the forest previous to its junction. At the place where we struck the fork is one of the most beautiful cascades I ever saw. The stream is about 60 yards wide and falls over the rock in a straight line about 30 feet perpendicular. It is very deep and still above where it breaks and gradually shallows to the depth of 3 feet on the brink. It is also very deep below and almost dead except the motion caused by the waters falling into the deep pond-like stream and boiling from the bottom rolls off into small ripples and dies away into a calm surface." So I mean, you break that down, 60 yards across, check. Straight line all the way across the river, check. And then it falls 30 feet. Now, Osborne Russell kind of exaggerated things. That was actually pretty common among the mountain men. They like to tell mountain yarns is what they called it, where they exaggerated stories, and it was pretty much a lie, you know, but 30 feet, I mean, that's pretty close. Heck, it might be 30 feet. I'll have to look that up. So we made it to the Falling Fork. That's where we are right now. We're gonna go upstream about 5 miles to make it to our next spot where I think he was. So it's almost 10 o'clock. I'm a lot later than I wanted to be, but it's a nice cool day. But we need to get going. So okay, so this is the confluence of the Falling Fork and the Bechler River. Now the Bechler comes in right here. The Falling Fork comes in over there. And this is kind of a discrepancy in Osborne Russell's route. Which river did he follow? He doesn't say. He doesn't even mention that there's two rivers. He just says, I followed upstream the river. I believe that he followed the Bechler, because when you look at the context of his writing, he talks about seeing more waterfalls before he gets to a big meadow. Now, I've been on the Falling Fork going up that way, and there's not another waterfall for like a long time, 15 miles, something like that, 20 miles. But there is more waterfalls on the Bechler just right up here. So I believe he went up the Bechler. Like I say, no one knows, but it only makes sense because after those waterfalls, he gets to a meadow. And if you go up that way, there is no meadow. It's just more timber. But yeah, there is that big meadow where he met up with the camp right up this way in a few miles. So that's where we're headed. All right, I've got to address this. Because we're now away from the trailhead, away from where people might be, I'm gonna put this on. Now, I've talked about this before, but I probably need to talk about it again. I am in Yellowstone National Park with a firearm, and that's totally okay. It is legal to carry a firearm. It is illegal, it's not legal to fire it. Now, with that said, I don't come out here to shoot the weapon. I'm not gonna shoot it. I just have it as just in case. There's a lot of grizzlies around here. I'm gonna be prepared. I have bear spray, I have a pistol. In all actuality, I'm probably gonna reach for the bear spray first, especially where I'm at. I'm gonna try that first. If it doesn't work and I have to use this, I'm gonna use it. If I have to use this, I'm gonna have bigger issues than paying a fine for discharging a weapon in Yellowstone Park. With the amount of bears that you hear, I'm a local around here, so I hear about every bear that people see. And it's just it's like, why not? Why not have that extra protection? Now, he did say in that passage that they passed through and saw many beautiful cascades, and I'll bet you this was one of them. I'll tell you what, I've seen a few fish jumping. I should have brought a rod. I thought about it, but I didn't get my Yellowstone fly fishing permit, so I'll have to come back here. It's not too far to get here to these falls. Well, I reckon we better move forward. This is just right above that waterfall. It's incredible how calm it is compared to the rest of the river. It's a little bit deeper. The water's super glassy, really smooth. It's calm before the storm, I suppose, but I need to come out here more. I say that every time I go somewhere. This is just incredible. waiting to see a fish jump. I'll bet they don't get too big. It's too shallow. I know they get big upstream where it gets deep, but right here it's just as calm as could be. Very cool. Oh, hold up. That's the chewed tree. There goes a bird's nest. No way. There's an old bird's nest in there. All right, we got another beaver spot. You can see that one there has been chewed off from right here. I mean, that's definitely a beaver. It's crazy. They just took that out, and I came over and I started looking across the way, and you could see there's some sticks over there. And I can almost guarantee you that's where that beaver's living. I mean, maybe not right now, because I mean that's obviously old. You know, that beaver chewed that quite a while ago. But I'll bet you, oh, as I keep looking around, I'm finding more. I don't know if you can see it on the GoPro, but right over there, there's a beaver lodge, for sure, 100%. I found something else. See that stick? It's been chewed of all its bark. That's a beaver. Same with that one. That's a beaver. And it's fresh too. If this wasn't Yellowstone Park, I'd come trap it when trapping season opens. It's kind of funny, I come out here tracing the route of an old trapper, and I'm a new age. I'm a modern trapper, but we're still looking for the same sign, the same dens, the same bank lodges. Pretty cool. It's so insanely quiet here. I mean, there's not even a ripple. If it wasn't for the mosquitoes buzzing around my head, then it would be completely silent. There's hardly any breeze. There's no fish in this river, I swear. You would think, with how flat it is, you would see a fish jump a quarter mile away. If you could see that far. You'd think you'd just see fish out there, but you don't. Oh, fish. Oh, another fish. You just gotta watch long enough. Small fish, but heck, I'd catch them. I don't know if you can see, but off in the distance above the treetops, you can see the crest of a mountain. That's Pitchstone Plateau. And if you follow this river all the way up, you know, like another 12 miles from right here, then it'll take you to the headwaters of this river. There's 3 different rivers that come together to join the big Bechler River. It's a cool spot up in there. It was on my list to do this summer, but summer gets so busy that I just couldn't make it happen. Well, that's interesting. All right, this is one of the spots on the river where you're supposed to ford, where you're supposed to go across. We're not going to. The trail we need is going that way, so we're okay. But, you know, from seeing this whole river, anywhere really is a good place to cross, but the trail crosses right here and goes up that other side and then goes up to that Pitchstone Plateau. That's how you get there, is you go that way. We're gonna go hit the meadows, which is another mile going that way. And we'll have some lunch there. We'll take a good break, and it'll be good. Onward. So here's a better view of that Pitchstone Plateau. You can see it up there. Now, I've never been up there. I really want to go up there. There's nothing up there but like these lava flows. And there's a geyser, there's a fumarole is what it's called. And it just emits steam just constantly, just poof. But not much up there. There really isn't. But I want to be up there. We're starting to get a little taste of the meadows. This is small compared to the one we're going to. You know, I'm coming next week with a fishing rod for sure. But yeah, we're getting real close. These are like the first aspen trees I've seen this whole time. It's been nothing but tall pines, fireweed, tall grasses. That's about all. Now we get some aspens. Well, we made it. This is the very start of the meadows, and it goes all the way around in this bowl. You can see that right there. That's Pitchstone Plateau. That's what we saw way back there, like 2 miles. And now we're here. We're going to continue on up and break into the meadows and see what we can find. I'll tell you what, it's tougher than I thought. It's a lot more wobbly. Oh. Well, we made it. It's gorgeous out here. Oh, what do we got? Where are we? We ascended the stream, passing several beautiful cascades for about 12 miles, when the trail led us onto a prairie 7 or 8 miles in circumference. And that's where we are. We're just on the very edge of it. It would take all day to walk around this thing to explore it. So we're just getting a little taste. If I was smart and thought about it and prepared a little bit, we would have camped out here and done that. We would have explored, but it's just a day trip today, so we'll be heading back pretty soon here. And it says, the next morning, August 11th, we bid adieu to the camp and started on the backtrack to trap the stream we had left the day previous, meaning the Bechler or the Falling Fork. We, however, took a nearer route and reached the little valley where we stayed until the 25th. This day we had a tremendous thunderstorm which broke in peals against the towering rocks above us with such dreadful clashing that it seemed as if they would have been torn from their foundations and hurled into the valley upon our heads. Such storms are very frequent about these mountains. It's very true. We got one brewing right here. There's fish jumping all around me. But he goes on to say, such storms are very frequent about these mountains and often pass over without rain. And I'm hoping that's what happens today. I did bring a rain jacket, but I don't want to put it on because it's hot already. We left the valley and ascended the mountain southwest and traveled about 15 miles to a branch of Henry's River. You know, I wanted to do this, wanted to come out here and track his route. Like I've said a few times already, is that his exact route? I think it is. It's never been confirmed. You try and look on the internet to see where he went. It doesn't have anything. But I thought I'd get out here, see this country for myself, and make a deduction on what I believe. And I do believe that he did come through here. This is the meadow because I know this area. I study maps and I know that this is the biggest meadow around, you know, in this country right here. But to be able to come here and be a part of it on the anniversary, you know, almost 200 years later, it's a pretty cool thing, you know, to me. I think it's fantastic. I think it's so incredible. It feels like I'm part of something bigger when I chase history like that, you know. I just love it all, man. I love the mountains, love the rivers, love the streams. I'll never stop doing this, I don't think. But well, till next time, I suppose. Oh. The journey I have taken today will be one that is not soon forgotten. To see those things that have already been seen by those that I admire is quite a special thing. I cannot imagine the land looking much different than it did in 1838, for the same mountains stand tall and the same waters fall. Now surely there are less beaver today, as I only saw evidence of one, perhaps two, colonies, but the trees they chew are sure to be the same. I feel as though this journey is complete, as I am quite satisfied at what I have found. The lands of this earth have nearly all been discovered, explored, and documented. I find great joy in visiting these places, the places that have been discovered but have been forgotten.